What is up? What is
All
up?
right. Hey, what's going on, Rich? What's going on, everybody?
Oh, not much. That intro was way off sync with the sound, but that's okay. It never works, so that would be disappointing if it did.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm just sharing this out, and I will ask you guys to share this out. So here we go, man. It's Vice President Pence versus Heels Up Harris. Here we go. He's not like President Trump. If she gets nasty, he won't get nasty. He'll be just very soft-spoken and affirmative. I can't see him, using the Trump tactic. We'll see.
No. I think he'll be good, and I think he's got a lot of ammunition because why wouldn't you? It's Kamala, so I'm sure that a lot of the talking points he's going to bring up. So so we're going to be going to a live when this is over, of course, or when the debate starts. We'll be flying over to actually show that. So it's not like we're just doing a show and then going away. We actually will be broadcasting that out.
Yes. Do you have the video up with no volume?
No, the volume is good. We are talking, we are speaking, and it is we are live.
No, I mean the video of right side showing on the screen, and then just have the volume off. This way they know that it won't, we're not trolling them, that it's just going to be us.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, let me do this thing because I can do that. Let's go with this.
Yeah, while you do that, welcome, everybody. Welcome. So tonight we are actually Vantage Point USA, also on Periscope. Usually we go with Realm of the Republic, but tonight we're Vantage Point USA on Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, and D Live. So anybody new on Vantage Point USA on Periscope, please go over to YouTube and subscribe, hit the notification. We did reach 1,000 subscribers. Me and Rich and I cannot thank you enough to get us to that 1,000 subscriber goal, which totally opens up a whole nother level,
That's right. Mobile, we can do mobile streaming. We can go out elsewhere, and that's awesome. And there's Donna Randolph. Watch the quiet ones. That's right. Don't tell us we're quiet. Our volume's good, Donna. You can hear us. Are we good?
Yeah. Maybe she's talking about Pence.
Yeah, I know. I know. And he's gonna be dominating. Definitely gonna be dominating. I feel he's undersold as far as this debate comes up. Kamala's never given a great debate, and she had one gotcha moment in her life, and they keep playing that as if that's her, claim to fame. So
right now, who's the moderator for this debate? I mean, they're all going to be against Pence and Trump anyway, but who's the clown this time?
I do not know. I'm checking right now for it, and I will tell you.
And I think it's in Utah, right?
Cleveland Center, I think, is where it's at. Again.
Oh.
Let's see.
Is it?
Debate. Let's see here.
So I'm just doing my hashtags so I can tweet this out.
Susan Page. Yeah.
Who is it?
Susan Page is going to be the one. So.
Oh, I don't really know anything about her.
Journalist. Yeah. Debate topic. It says debate will cover 9 issues, each to be discussed for approximately 10 minutes. She decides the subjects to cover and questions to ask, which she describes as an awesome responsibility. Yes, and doing it well is an awesome responsibility.
Yeah, and do it without bias.
That's it. Nicholas, how you doing? Good to see you, sir.
It's in Utah. Yeah, it is in Utah.
It is in Utah. Okay.
Yeah, I read that right before we went live, but then, my brain, I can't remember.
Milkweed Gringo. Yes, it's in Utah. I love it. I like the ghost there, too. Good job. All right, so we're going to discuss some stuff here. We're just going to bring it to you just to kill some time here. I would like to talk about a couple things. Kaepernick, piece of crap Kaepernick, he's in the news again. So he's publishing his publishing company, because, he's got a publishing company since he really wasn't that great at football, is putting out a collection of 30 essays over the next 4 weeks about abolition, policing, and prisons, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, abolition for the people, the movement for a future without policing and prisons. A future, oh wow, this is going to be a great future, dude. There is not going to be any crime. We won't need police. We will not need prisons. In his introduction, Kaepernick writes, the killings of Floyd and Taylor forced our nation to grapple with not only the devastation of police terrorism, but also the institution that constitute, enhance, and expanse our carceral state. Got a cure for it. Don't commit crimes. You won't go to jail. It's pretty much simple math. even in today's education system. It's simple math. Some of
amazing.
some of the pieces were written by political prisoners. I want to know the political prisoners that are in this country right now, that this was political prisoners. I haven't heard of many that we have in our jails, and family members of those who face police violence and incarceration. Other essays are organizers, movement leaders, and scholars, and I only have 2 points to make on this. The political prisoners probably mean illegal aliens. Those are probably the political prisoners. And the organizers, leaders, and are people with an axe to grind. So really, I don't care what they have to say either. So, yeah, what do you think,
Wow.
Jake?
Let me tell you, man, that's one of their biggest chants. Forget that guy. He's just a clown. He loves, Fidel Castro and all of them. So he's a clown. One of their biggest chants is abolish the police, abolish prisons,
Right.
no cops, no prisons, total abolition. That's like one of their best, one of their favorite, march chants, zombie chants that they do.
Zombie chant. That's right. Because only people that follow mindlessly would actually chant that. That's why that's
Right.
that's why it's a
Police
zombie
said,
chant.
did he steal this from Mein Kampf? Hello, everybody. Also, Rich, if you guys know, we just shift on the fly here. Is there a way that you could put starting soon in text over, like maybe move the back to blue under chat and put starting soon on the video and maybe make it bigger? This way they know that we're not just two guys. That here's what I always fear. You click on this like Giants versus Jets game, and it's these two sports talk guys, and then everybody's like, well, are you not showing the game? So it's kind of like one of these things they do, like clickbait. So I don't want anybody to think we're clickbaiting here. We are showing the video. We're definitely showing the video of the debate. So don't think we're just doing clickbait. Like, come hang out with us and we'll just talk about the debate.
No, it's up. It's up in that corner. I popped it up there so they could see. But yeah, sure, I'll do this under pressure.
Yeah,
probably misspelling.
Say starting soon. Debate starting soon or anything like that.
All right.
Just so it's more clear that we are showing the.
There it is.
Thing. I love the eagle and the
Thank
backdrop.
you.
That is beautiful.
Thank you. Anyway, got that working. And no Chris Wallace allowed. That's right. They didn't probably let him in the building, much less the thing.
Oh my God, that guy is a nightmare, bro.
Mike Smith.
That guy is a nightmare.
Yeah, trying to find your YouTube channel. Donna, it is it's Vantage Point USA. So you got to put the USA on there if you're trying to find it on YouTube. So thank you for looking for it, and that's where you find it. Pence versus knee pads. Love it, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, if you go to youtube.com / Vantage Point USA, we actually have a custom URL.
Yeah, so you can go there.
So
yes.
you can find it that way if you're on a browser.
Yes.
But if you're searching for Vantage Point USA, go to filters if you can't find it and hit channel and search channel Vantage Point USA. You should find it. It's an American flag up there. The page is looking good, Rich. Rock and roll, baby.
Good deal.
I wish I had his internet, man. You guys know my internet is such a beating, and what a bunch of loyal fans to hang in there with my buffering and my 1 megapixel videos and everything else. What a nightmare, man.
Which is one we had to get on a couple times, but now we got a good feed, so we're good and we're happy. And okay, so hey, and by the way, everybody who prayed for Trump's recovery, hey, man's up and at it. I don't know how much he feels better, but man, what a heart of a warrior as far as if he is feeling like crap. He's not showing it. And I'm going to tell you something that's real important for a world leader to do is not show it. And I found this article was one of the stupid articles. It talked about the fact he got preferential treatment in yeah, exactly. Of course. So Trump's doctors asked for the Regeneron drug under the compassionate use rules. And this is for people that have a threatening disease and can't enroll in a study for testing. There's no good alternative. It says it said that Walter Reed is not a site where the drug is being tested, so he may have met the criterion on technical grounds, trying to infer that maybe he was life-threatening or some crap like that. Said if he had enrolled in a study, he would have risked being randomly assigned to a comparison group, getting the usual rather than getting the drug, meaning a placebo. It said that this has to go through the FDA and the U.S. Food Drug Administration. this is the leader of the free world. He didn't have to go to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and he didn't have to worry about getting a placebo of the drug if he was in a study group, because he's not going to be in a study group. And it didn't even go into the compassionate use rules. So all that is just a bunch of crap.
Of national security.
Yes.
And if it was Obama, they would be doing anything. They would send them to Mars if they thought it was help. You know, they would take over, you know, space force or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
What's the new one?
Space Force.
SpaceX or whatever.
Are you talking about Elon? Elon SpaceX. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have took over his company and shot Obama to the Mars to heal him.
Exactly.
It's amazing, you know. So he beats it. Now that's a problem. Now he beat it so much that now they're saying that it was a hoax.
Right.
This was a hoax. So all of a sudden they're okay using the word hoax. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and so yeah, exactly. So Bateman House, after saying how prolific this is in our community, his is a hoax. Everybody else got it the right way or the normal way. His is a hoax. Give me a break. Right. And so they go on to say Trump's medical team has not met their moral responsibility to the American public to be honest and forthcoming on his health. You forgo much of your privacy when you become the president. Are you really crapping me here? Do you really think if he was incapacitated, do you think they're going to let Al-Qaeda know? Do you think they're going to let Iraq know, Iran know? Do you really think that they're going to voice this out there, that anything is wrong with the president, that we should have said minute by minute what his physical, it's just the biggest crappish.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because when one of the hacks from CNN, I forget who it was.
Any of them, name a name, it's a hack.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody had put out that he wasn't doing good. I heard he's not doing good. My sources said, isn't that like putting our country in danger?
Right.
Are you telling foreign countries that our president health isn't good right now and come attack us, basically? Yep. I mean, and if it was true, didn't you just leak classified information that just put us at risk?
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yep.
I mean, Hillary put out classified, emails, and nothing happened to her. So what would be the deterrent for them not to do it?
Yeah, nothing. There is no deterrent for them to do it. Nothing's
happened to any of Clinton or anything, and nothing is going to happen. I keep saying that. I am not here to give you hope porn.
Right, hope porn. That's right.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to. There is not 25 people indicted, Obama and all of them, and no, just stop. And people feeding you that are giving you false hope. You're better off just going, wow, there is a 2-tier system. They're never going to pay for it because there's so much dirt on each other that they would set a horrible precedent, and it would all come out. So nobody's going to go forward to prosecute these people for what they did in this, spying on the Trump administration. Nobody's going to pay for it. And if anything, they'll just have these hearings on how we can move forward and learn from this. It's just not going to happen. I'll be surprised. I would be shocked.
Yeah, I like 10 Minutes to Craps says, Biden's probably got COVID too. Maybe that's been it. Maybe all this time he's had COVID, or he had it, and this is the fallout from him having it, that he's feeble and lethargic. But yeah, he's talking about he's wiping his nose, coughing all the time. Yeah, but it's damp in the basement, and usually there's a lot of mold in the basement, so that may be contributing as well. So you're right on that. So
once again, they censored President Trump's tweet. And they put this warning thing because he was talking about the flu and everything. Nobody else gets that.
Yeah.
How about doing that to the CDC, who said 6 feet, you should be safe. And now all of a sudden, more than 6 feet, you can be infected.
Right.
So shouldn't they have a censor, or the World Health Organization, who told us masks won't work and stopping flights from China? Where is all the censorship on them? Listen, that's another thing. Twitter is never going to stop tilting the scale. Yep. You want to talk about collusion? I put a tweet. There's your collusion. Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg colluding to try to control the narrative through censorship, which is a total assault on democracy and the enemy of democracy. You want to talk about $10,000 worth of Facebook ads for the Russians, or do you want to talk about Dorsey and Zuckerberg totally controlling the narrative?
That's right. And who was it? Was that YouTube, or was it YouTube that banned QAnon? Stuff. I mean, just banned it. We talked about the fact that they were going after the pages. Now it's just pretty much, if you talk about Q, which once again goes to, are these people publishers Are they a port?
Right.
Are they a portal for ideas, or are they actually publishers? Because if you're going to actually treat everybody as if they're your own little correspondent, and you decide what is actually put out there on your portal, then you're not a portal for open ideas. You're simply a autocratic system for your own ideas, and you don't enjoy any of the normal protections that you would have if you were somebody who was just a portal for ideas. So
Yeah, and you know what would fix it?
yes,
If they have another useless hearing about it, and we could bring in Dorsey and Zuckerberg, and they could sit around and lawyers can make $4,000 an hour and waste our time asking them questions like, do you censor? No. But then James O'Keefe and Project Veritas points out that they do. Yeah, let's have another senseless, useless hearing about what we already know they're doing.
that's right.
I mean, what a waste.
Yeah.
What a complete waste.
You know, Glay talks about the best medicine for these people would be to shun them from public life. You know, that used to be a thing back when people actually had morals and cared about what was being put out there. I mean, look at Cal Cunningham. I mean, I can't believe that the North Carolina election is going to be close. Cal Cunningham, you know, they try to portray this thing as he was just having like this schoolboy crush on this girl, Guzla or whatever her name is. Now they find out, no, they were having an actual affair, but they try to gloss over this crap when it first came out. So where's the Me Too people? Where's all the people that prey upon this news whenever it's conservative? They're not out there, but yet Cal's out there humping around, and he doesn't have the decency to walk away from the election. So, you know.
Well, how about Biden?
Yeah, there you go. We talked about
Me Too.
Yeah.
Where's the Me Too movement? He got Biden. They pretty much just blacklisted that lady. Nobody covered it at all.
Yeah, and this isn't just the lady making allegations. This is also her ex-husband who said, "Oh, you're talking about Tara Reid. Right? You're talking about Tara Reid. I'm talking about the fact that Biden was in an extramarital affair by the ex-husband's accounts before him and his wife got divorced. That Biden was seeing his wife while they were still married. So yeah, I mean, like I said, they cannot claim moral high ground in any of these debates. And even Kamala Harris says that, you know, she at the time, I wish I had the clip pulled up, that, yeah, you know, I believe these women and all this other stuff. Should he quit? Should he drop out? Well, that's a choice. You know, and the fact that she said, as somebody running against him for the presidency, when they said, should he drop out of the race, for her to say, that's up to him. There must have been some talk. Hey, listen, if I get in, maybe you're the VP, yada, yada, yada. Take it easy on me, yada. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But
right. So, Kamala, what do you think of Biden? Well, I think he's a rapist, and I think he's a racist. Will you run as his vice president pick? Sure.
Absolutely.
Why not? I mean, you know, these things seem to become normal. Like it's just okay because, you know, that's politics. When did it become okay for the woman to stand on stage and pretty much say, I believe the woman that's claiming you raped her and you're a racist and I'm going to accept to run along with you? I mean, where does this even go? Where does this even become normal? I just don't get it.
Well, it's going to be interesting because she never really answers any questions that are asked. She always deflects, defers. I hope Pence really hammers her on track. One of the things is the Supreme Court packing thing that I know will come up, and how is she going to respond to that? Because she hasn't answered it before. If you watch the video of her actually addressing that question, it went off some tangent. Like, it was only like a 30-second answer, but it was like way off. And I was looking at this, the University of California, Berkeley Law School dean wrote an op-ed which he advocated for additional judges to be added. Okay, so this is a guy at Berkeley. Okay, we know what we're getting when we talk about Berkeley, but he's talking about the fact that they want to repeal Article 2 of the Constitution that will allow immigrants not born to the U.S., but they also say they should threaten the increased size of the court to 13 if the Republicans try to push through Coney Barrett. So what they're saying, but if they do that anyway, November election produces a Democrat winning the White House, Democrat majority in the Senate, Congress would be totally justified increasing the size of the court. If everybody's going to play this game, and eventually we're going to have 500 Supreme Court judges, honest to God, I think somebody should push for a constitutional amendment capping that number. it's if because if this is a a race to the top of the baseball bat, this could go on forever. So yeah.
One thing I hope he brings up is, look at your district, Kamala, whatever her name is.
Kamala.
Look
I'm
at
going
your
with Kamala.
Kamala. Look at your own district, and what a crap hole it is, with homeless everywhere and crap in the streets and needles. You're gonna try to be the vice president of America,
Yeah.
and you can't even control your own district. Like the same thing with all of these politicians. Like Nancy Pelosi has the nerve to talk about President Trump. Look at your own backyard. Look at your own front yard. Look at your side yard. It's a mess. But they'll sit there on their high horse or there on her high ice cream crate and talk about how Trump should do this and that. You can't even control your own district. Never mind the United States. And that woman, Beverly, that poured the paint across Black Lives Matter.
Right.
She went to Kamala's district and was filming. And it was just horrible, bro. It was horrible.
Yeah, they have no clue. And yeah, I can't even add. Yeah, she's not qualified. And this actually is somebody who's talking about prison reform and used to hold people in a prison longer than their sentences back when she was a prosecutor. Used to hold people longer in prison than what they were actually sentenced for miscellaneous misdeeds, whatever, just to keep people that weren't doing, I guess, good work. I mean, you were actually penalized for doing good work in the prison system because they didn't want to let you go at that point. So, yeah.
So it's also amazing, something on a funny note, the Trump administration and the Pence, administration, they put reserved a ticket for Tupac in case he shows up and wants to go there, because Kamala said that she used to listen to Tupac back in the day, and he wasn't even a rapper then. So I put a tweet out that
he was dead.
Tupac just endorsed Trump. So take that.
Yeah.
Kamala.
It's like, hey, who's your favorite rapper? Tupac. Right. Oh, really? Well, he's dead. So, yeah. So one story I thought was so that Kim Davis, I don't know if you remember her, Kentucky, Rowan County. She was the one who refused to give out the marriage license to the gay couples on her religious beliefs. I
remember her.
Okay, so two conservative justices mounted a fresh attack Monday on the landmark 2015 ruling that legalized gay marriage nationwide. This is what the article says. I'm not saying that they mounted a fresh attack, because they didn't. What they basically said is that they are now seeing the carnage, basically, of that. It's called Obergefell versus Hodges. It says it has ruinous consequences for religious liberty. So Alito and who was it? It was Alito and Clarence Thomas basically said, this is the fallout from this rule, and they said it's a problem that only the court can go back and fix. Now, basically what they're saying is this: the ruling got ruled the way it did on technicalities. It wasn't really pushed because the religious aspect of it wasn't brought up the way it probably should have been. But it says the LGBT advocacy group took those comments as an ominous sign for same-sex marriage and gay rights on a court moving further rightward. These comments made clear that the war on marriage equality against the lives of same-sex couples is alive and well. No, it wasn't a war. That's not even what they said. They didn't say it had anything to do with whether or not people can do it. What they're saying is that this lady's rights, religious rights, were trampled on, the fact that she wasn't allowed to deny it. So what? It has nothing to do with them. So they're just trying to spin this thing. And all right, so we got a little bit of time. We're about to run.
That's the same thing as the cake makers.
Yeah, exactly.
Went after them, and
it is the same thing. Once again, religious freedoms get trampled as social justice warriors get pushed up.
Well, not religious, just Christians.
Christians, yes, the Christian,
just
right?
Christians.
Yes.
Anything else, no problem.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? We got some time? What?
No, we got 3 minutes. Now keep this in mind when we go to the broadcast. The broadcast is delayed, I think, for a couple minutes. If you bear with us, we'll be putting it up.
On side is delayed.
Yeah, we're not delaying the broadcast, but in order to re-stream it or re-put it out there, by law, I guess you have to wait a couple, because CBS, NBC, the people that actually pay the money to actually have the first rights to it, you have to be behind that. So we apologize for that, but we will be putting it up. and then we'll be in chat, having a good time with it. We will watch, afterwards we'll come back. We'll talk some more about, about how it went. And, so you can see it up
checking out Periscope right now. I see, it looks good on YouTube. Of course, Twitch and D Live, we're live over there, but I don't think anybody ever goes over there.
Yeah, so we can see it up in the right-hand corner when it comes up, and then we'll be going straight to it. Hey, I do want to give a shout-out because, I always talk about the college stuff and how and how hopeless it seems there. But I will say two things, hold on, that I wanted to bring up that I thought was good. University of Iowa is pausing its diversity, equity, and inclusion training by federal contractors and grantees in the wake of President Donald Trump's recent executive order combating race and sex stereotyping. So interim associate vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion sent an email to the school's president. Let us state unequivocally that diversity, equity, and inclusion remain a core value within the institution. However, after consulting the multiple entities, given the seriousness of the penalties for non-compliance with the order, which includes the loss of federal funding, we are recommending that all units temporarily pause for a 2-week period as we, take a look at it. Now, this was a staggering number. According to the universities, now this is the University of Iowa, according to the university's Office of the Vice President for Research, the school was awarded $346,721 in federal dollars received directly from the federal agency in 2020. That's a butt ton of money that the federal government gives these colleges. So the point being that you can push these issues. I mean, Trump has an executive order out there, and our taxpayer money is going towards $346 million going to these colleges. Don't tell me that the federal government doesn't have the power to stop the activities going on these campuses that are publicly supported.
I don't know why people can send their kids to colleges. The indoctrination, where they live in a bubble and they have to have safe spaces. I don't get it, bro. I mean, talk about not preparing your kid for the real world. It is nuts.
It is nuts. And by the way,
hey, what's going on, Glay over there on D Live? He's proving us wrong.
That's it.
Glay is the man.
That's funny. So yeah, that was one of the things. And then I think it was who was it? University of Missouri spent. Oh, he was wanting to know what he was talking about. He was proving you wrong on. All right. So the other thing is, I don't even have it in front of me, but I think it was University of Missouri at Jefferson's tombstone. I didn't realize this, but they actually have Jefferson's actual tombstone on the college campus. Apparently at Monticello back in, and this is going off my memory, probably wrong, 1836 or something. It was 1863, 1836. Anyway, it was actually taken down and put away because they were scared people were going to do something with it. And then what happened is they made another one, took the original, gave it to the university, and then they went ahead and just spent $20,000 to put this big, heavy clear acrylic thing around it to prevent vandalism of his tombstone. So I thought that was great. So, shout out to them. So
how long until they try to destroy that, no matter what we put around it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and 10 minutes to crap roulette says that much money for education and they get that much money. And I'm assuming you're talking about the tuition. Yes, a staggering amount for that. Plus, they're also getting their money from their football programs. They're getting all their sports programs. So, yeah, you got all that stuff. So, keeping an eye up on the screen here. We have two empty. Oh, they're going to be seated. So they get to sit down for this, huh? Man,
how many people are actually there? Like 10?
Well, only one. That's the moderator. And once again, for all those who that weren't here when we first looked it up, that's Susan Page that you're seeing the back of her head. And I don't know if anybody knows anything she's done yet in life. So I don't know how she even swung that job. So let's see.
One thing I'm glad about is we don't have our racist bot farm in here right now.
Oh, man.
Totally attacking us. We were totally under attack during that NFAC when they went to Kentucky. Oh, which, by the way, I think they didn't charge the cop in Wisconsin for that one kid that was shot out the mall. I can't remember his name, and they expect Wisconsin to go nuts tonight. They brought in the National Guard. I believe it's Wisconsin. I could be totally wrong.
That's right. Hey, Nick. Yeah, we will get cracking. I know that the clock is 9:03. It's not us. We got to wait for it. Like I said, it's going to be delayed just a second, but then we'll be ready to go. So
is it already started? You think?
On real time, I don't have real time up because we're in our little shell here, so I don't have that. But
I'm looking at our right side now.
No, I'm on right side. It's on our screen. We have it, so I'll see when they come up there. But we can go to it. Yeah, I know they're already out, Christine. Like I said, the by law, right side has to delay the broadcast because you can't. If you take CBS, NBC, ABC, they can snatch you down. So we're tracking right side's broadcast, which is a little bit delayed, and we appreciate them covering this as well. So yeah, we got that going on. So
CNN isn't live with it either right now. They're on delay.
CNN's on delay.
Yeah, well, not that it cares.
On delay.
I'm just like going through, who's showing it, and CNN is on delay too.
Okay.
Even though they're already out, we're using right side's feed, and we just can't, do anything about it. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, but we'll go to it here in a second. I can't imagine it's going to be more than 5-minute delay, and I hate that. But you know what? If you're just tracking here, you're not going to know it's delayed anyway. It's kind of like
that's right.
Yeah, if the meteor was to hit and you didn't hear about it till 5 minutes later, it wouldn't matter anyway. So, but yeah, so
I see time on Facebook is not there yet.
Okay.
So, they're just coming out now.
All right, they're
just coming out now.
We'll be looking for it. Oh, you want me to show that? We can show that. Yeah. Punch up the volume. We'll go.
8 seconds. I'm under fair use. 8 seconds.
Oh man. So like I said,
it's starting. So go ahead if you want to just start it on right side.
All right.
And then make sure you guys share this out. And after it, we will definitely be back. But we'll be in here chatting, and we'll be back right after to discuss everything.
Yeah, and we're going to keep we'll keep the chat up. We'll put this behind the chat a little bit so that so that you guys can check that out as well, okay? So, yeah, thanks for watching again.
All that said, he's experienced.
Okay, so just at the time I did that, they are going to apparently run a commercial, then they're coming back. So hold on. Okay, now they're switching to the debate. Here we go.
I think it would be a mistake for Mike Pence to.
Are you tired of the media spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? Well, take a look at this. Over the last...
What is it? What is that? Oh, you got the debate coverage starting soon. Did you remove that already? Because I might be behind.
Trying to get audio now as we speak. Sorry, guys.
You can take us off screen.
Trying to get audio
now as we speak. Sorry, guys. Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much.
I must be way behind.
Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that. And frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. And our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resource and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe, will have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine. It looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
can have 15 more seconds, and then we'll give the vice president a chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm were you when your children couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to respond.
You know, there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made. The reality, if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. And that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also said to us if we did everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice President
now, one
Pence,
life lost is too many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first responders.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Pence.
If I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you,
the Green New Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader, speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked about
it is asking too much of the people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect their parents and their children.
Sorry. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's fine, I'm Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on to the issue of
thank you, but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I'm going to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their President, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher, but I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely. And that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000? And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
But the American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice President.
Turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, unleashing American energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's on the line if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a good segue into our third topic, which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. It was when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of four had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of four increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think, Susan. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is absolutely not true. That
is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but we need to give Vice President.
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation. And we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
There are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists use hurricanes and wildfires to try and sell their bill of goods of a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put American jobs and American workers first.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us to retrofit 4 million American business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump is going to put America first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank you,
But, on the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris,
let's talk about that. The vice president earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know, I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000 manufacturing jobs created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through this pandemic. But a Green New Deal, your massive new mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I just need to respond very briefly.
15 seconds, and
Thank
then we'll move on.
Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. The American people deserve to know that. It's probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was xenophobic.
Vice President Pence.
But President Trump has stood up to China. We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field, and we're going to hold China accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. You got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So, Russia, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look,
President.
we destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
Pence.
President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President
harm
Pence.
to Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never have
Thank you, Vice President
take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length because, of course, there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
Joe Biden would, but Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And
Susan,
I want to make sure we have a chance
I really have
to talk
to respond
about
to that. Look, she has
15 seconds because
well, I got to have
trying
more
to
than
keep,
that. Look,
well, I'm sorry, but Vice President,
look,
but you've had more time than she's had so far.
The slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son
Pence.
is a captain in the United States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
Thank you,
also
Vice
say
President Pence.
the
Vice
American
President Pence,
people deserve,
you know,
Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you, which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Yes. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Now, she's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
So
your
my
time
hope
is
is that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as President of the United States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions. Yeah. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Thank you, Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true
Harris.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. Late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election. And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now. And it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you now.
The American people deserve a straight answer. And And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to
I
tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So I think maybe in the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question, but I think the American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform, get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and we will decriminalize marijuana. And we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is the time for leadership on a tragic, tragic issue of unarmed black people in America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. Was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist, and that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know, who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day, that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. Look, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American neighbors and all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership, we'll always stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done from day one, and that is improve the lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice President.
Record unemployment, record investments in education, and we'll fight for school choice for all of our minorities.
Thank you, Vice President.
I'd like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who has personally prosecuted everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans. And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
not true.
It wasn't like he didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. On the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said, there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together.
Senator Harris.
And recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we all have so much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your record, Senator.
Thank you.
I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, you increased the disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record speaks for itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We've fought for educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for 4 months.
Thank you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of time.
I appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Harris.
I would like to go through.
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
But I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to pose I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then, Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along?" And then she added, "Your examples could make all the difference to bring us together," end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States, one very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing was the 2 of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. The American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument, but we always come together and are always there for one another
Thank you,
in
Vice
times of
President.
need. And we've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be that is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him, like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. You have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then. Good evening.
All right. Wow, my blood pressure's up. Let me put this, get this off of here. Jake, you there? I think you're muted. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, you're at now. Can you hear me? Oh. Can't hear you. You got it.
Bam.
There you go. There you go. Now you unmuted yourself. Good deal. Wasn't me this time.
All right.
Wow, my blood pressure's up. I don't know about anybody else. Oh my God. Where do we start? The chat's awesome. You guys are awesome. I'll tell you what. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you where we start. This is my opinion. This is not the opinion of the show or Rich. I don't know why Pence and Trump agree to do debates. Now, I know every president does debates, going back to the beginning of our country, but not every debate is rigged like we watch. Those aren't questions. Those are questions. Hey, President Trump killed 200,000 people. How do you explain yourself, Pence? Oh, and Camilla, you're so amazing, and you were a prosecutor. Tell us how you'll continue. And then making a hypothetical, and how she will, how she said that Coney Barrett is going to, rule on the Supreme Court case of Roe versus Wade. Why are you already speculating on how Coney Barrett's going to rule as a question in a debate? Yes. I mean, what a bunch of hit piece. Listen, honestly, the problem with President Trump, the problem with this is we didn't elect a politician. Stop doing debates unless there's no moderator at all. Stop doing news conferences when all the reporters in the room are going to just do hit piece questions. Why do we continue the status quo and play along with the game that politicians created? We didn't elect a politician. Why would Pence or Trump sit there and be attacked by questions and allow her to overspeak and him to be cut off. And I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. They don't need to do it.
Well, just like everybody was screaming in the chat, I mean, these were all liberal talking points. Like you say, every one of these things were liberal talking points. And like Zach said on chat, most of this crap was hashed out back in 2015. I mean, they're bringing up old points. I mean, there was, oh God, I just wish, I understand why they have to debate. I understand that because, well, there used to be one conservative news broadcast that used to be Fox. Now there's pretty much none of them. So if they're going to get the message out to try to push past what the news is putting out there, they have to do the debates. I understand why they do them. I wish they could negotiate better terms for it. I wish that there could be a bigger panel. I mean, why is it the last debate and this debate that the moderators are saying they came up with the questions? Wasn't that the case both in this last debate and this one?
No, I don't think they need to do it. They have programs like this and social media to get the word out. And they're not questions. They're hit pieces. Fine if they wanted to. I agree with you that there should be a debate. But these are not debate questions. These are hit pieces.
Right.
They don't even fact check. There's nothing true in the question she's saying. She's actually leading the witness. It wouldn't even hold up in court. She's putting in false, like, here's a perfect example, the climate change. Scientists have already concluded that humans are affecting the climate. I would say, hold on. What scientists?
Yeah.
Scientists that you handpicked? Because as far as I know, it's not been concluded. There's other scientists that say humans have no effect, that the climate's been changing. So what scientists are you talking about that concluded? So right there, you're already setting up. Scientists have concluded, and Trump has said on record that he denies. And also the other question, he's already said 10 times that he doesn't want a peaceful transfer of power. What kind of question is that? Why would you subject yourself to that crap? I don't get it, bro.
Yeah, I like how even starting out when she talked about who was so worried about where they were getting toilet paper from, the fact that their kids were going to be going over to the relative's house and killing the grandparents. But then she brings up the sky is falling. Her whole thing when she talked about America needs to know all the facts. They should have known everything from the beginning. They should have known all the scenarios from the beginning. Wait a minute, aren't you the one who said that, everybody was concerned and that, people were panicking? You want to add to that panic? She just, all her stuff, man. I just think that he should have attacked her voting record. I don't know who's preparing him for these debates. He should have went back to everything and pinpoint it, not just make the generalizations, but how about in case such a versus such a, you ruled this way, and to dispute it. But and I would redirect every question. I would say, I think the better question to ask. So every time they ask the liberal pointed question, redirect it and say, hey, I understand, but I think the better question to ask is this. I love the fact he hammered her on packing the court. And I even put in chat, I said, every other answer would have started off with, she didn't answer the question about packing it. She didn't answer the question.
Well,
because they're not going to.
Answer was the how, Joe Biden says he doesn't support the Green New Deal, but it's on his website. How do you square that?
Right.
She never answered it. And the moderator didn't say, well, that's all good what you just said, but you never answered the question.
Right.
Like right there. And, Pence, he should just turn and point to that, say, America, look right in the camera, America, you see what's going on here. These are questions. These are hit pieces with falsehoods. What scientist? I would have said, she said science has concluded that, climate change is by humans. What scientists? The ones you handpicked it? I would call her out. Yep. Right there, I would call out the whole system. The moderator, the whole system is, call it out right there. I'd be like, America, you're watching this, right? Yeah. Does anybody in America truly think these are questions or are these hit pieces, just like they do in the newsroom? But thankfully, the American people have seen past this. They elected Trump in 2016, and they will elect us in 2020. As long as everybody's paying attention here, I wouldn't even answer the question. I would just call the moderator out on the bias and the hit piece questions. That's what I would spend my time doing. Yeah,
no, you're right about that. I mean, the whole Iran. I mean, and Mike, he just doesn't show much emotion. He stays cool though, and that's good. It's like a marriage where you have a couple that are 180 degrees, but they work perfectly together. So I think they complement each other. I like the fact he's got that calmness. But I think if he just spoke a little quicker, and I think Big Armed had talked about this, I think if he spoke a little quicker, he could have got more points in. And I think if he had his, well, and maybe it's just not in his personality, he can't do it because he's always talked the same way. But man,
well, this is not the time to be an intellect. And Mike Pence is an intellect, and he's a politician. And he is very smart. But this is not the time to be an intellect and soft-spoken and stuff. This is time to point out like how ridiculous these questions are and how she's cutting me off, sticking her hand up rudely. If you noticed, I was just like, excuse me. And you never made her answer the question. So I want American to see this. I want you to see that this is a joke. I agree to do it, but as long as America sees this and call it out. This is not the time to sit back and, oh, well, I feel this and that. And that shit is for politicians. That ain't for this time right here and now. Don't bring a damn marshmallow to a gunfight.
Not the marshmallow. Marshmallow. Yeah, and I wish he had hammered her. Well, on the abortion thing, I wish he had talked about the fact, because they were trying to play the race thing, I would have said, look at how many black lives you would save if Comey gets on there and does something about Roe v. Wade. Think of how many black lives that'll save, more than any of the movement's going to save. I mean, he could have pushed that. I would have. What was the other thing? Oh, go ahead, talk, because I got to think of the other thing I was.
Well, the whole race thing. If I was Harris, and I would avoid the whole race thing. I would avoid it. How can you? And Pence. How can you not turn and say, wait a second? You called Joe Biden a racist right on national TV in front of everybody, and you agreed now to be his vice president.
Right.
You're going to talk to us about how there's racism and we need to stop it, but you just agreed to run with a racist that you said is a racist? Like, are you kidding me right now?
And that you agreed with the girl, Tara Reid, when she said that she was confronted in the hallway and all that stuff. So yeah,
and
so
a rapist.
Rapist.
So you're running with a rapist and a racist, but you're going to change. You're going to change the heartbeat of America when you just, instead of saying, hell no, I ain't running with that guy. Politics is important, but not important that I would run with a racist. Well, you are running with him. So if you really cared, you would say, no, I'm not going to be his running mate. He's a racist. But instead, she's like, yeah, we're going to stop racism, even though the guy I'm running with, I said, is a racist. And
I would have hammered her on her liberal agenda and specifically spoke about Biden, his health, and the opening was there. I will say that question came up when they said, have you guys talked about, going down the road if something happens to Biden, talk to Kamala about it. Hell, if I was Mike, I would have hammered that. People of America, wake up and smell the coffee. Biden will not get through his presidency, and she is going to become the preemptive president, and you need to start worrying about what her record is, what she stands for. Look at what she's been voting for. I would have hammered that, because that's what's on everybody's mind about his mental state and the fact he won't make it through 4 more years, at least not cognizantly. So yeah.
Well, how about this? Nor Trump nor Pence brought this up, and if it was me, and I would say, how dare you? Not like the other one, the Gretchen climate person. How dare you, sir? How dare you take the deaths of 200,000 Americans and use it to get you to have political power? How dare you say to all those people that fought so hard to prevent every single death to now blame President Trump, so every leader in every country is guilty of every death in their country because they're corrupt and incompetent? How dare you? And sickening is it of you to take the deaths of 200,000 people to push your political thing? And how dare you talk about our economy when people are trying to get unemployment and lost everything, even due to riots, which you never spoke about till recently? How dare you now bring up the economy that was shut down because of a virus and use it for political gain? You use the deaths of Americans and our economy that collapsed not before the COVID. It was record low unemployment. How dare you use the death of Americans and the collapse of an economy from a virus to push your political Think how much power, how much is power worth to you that you're willing to do that?
Yep.
And to tell the American people.
And for somebody who's so stuck on, quote, science like she is, I would have said of those 200,000, we can argue those numbers as well. Of course, one death is too many, as everybody keeps iterating. But yeah, we can argue the 200,000 number as well. And oh, by the way, when you guys were sending everybody back to the old folks' homes and allowing them to die from COVID in your liberal states, yeah, what were you doing there too? Oh man, I know it's easy to be an armchair, debater and stuff, but you know what? I would say that everybody on chat were hammering these points as they were happening. It's not like we sat back 30 minutes later and are reflecting on this. Everybody's screaming at at their keyboard saying, ask this, interject that. So it's just the debate preparation, I hope, gets really strong, and I really hope Trump has another shot at Biden, because I think he's going to do an excellent job next time they come together. I remember when Romney first did the debate with Obama and blew Obama out of the water, and everybody thought, man, Romney just scorched him. And then Obama took a more serious, and I'm not saying Trump got scorched. What I'm saying is Obama took Mitt for granted and thought he was just going to go with his rally talking points. And I think Trump did a little bit of that, did too much of the rally speech stuff. And I think this next, he's just going to wax. I think he's going to wax Biden. I hope this strategy is better if Biden has the kahunas to actually go back into the debate arena with Trump.
I would say this. Let's have a debate, but no moderator, or we're not doing it at all. This is 2020. We are sitting here right now, and they're talking about the peaceful transfer of power. We are sitting here right now while a presidential administration, Obama, and a candidate, Hillary Clinton, the most corrupt person in America, colluded to spy on our vote, our president, and the FBI. This is 2020, and you still want to play fair? Well, every president has debates, so we need to have debates because every president has news conferences, so we need to continue. Screw that. We do not need to do this crap. Why subject yourself to these horrible set-up hit piece questions? Social media is where it's at. The mainstream media is crap. So go on there. Now, the question, before the question's even answered, they're already getting their talking point out there.
Yep.
Where every question was a liberal lie talking point. Yep. So why agree to do it? I don't understand. We don't need to play their game anymore. That's politicians' game. We did not elect a politician. Stop playing their effing game.
Yeah.
We don't need to anymore.
Yep.
I don't know why we do. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
but it's entertaining that they do. But I would never agree to it. I'd be like, I'll moderate somebody with no moderator. I don't care if we talk over each other and no time limit. I don't care. I'll go 12 hours. Let's go. Gloves off.
Yeah,
what you got? We'll talk over each other. Let's go.
Yeah, they want to do the filibuster thing. Go ahead and have a 24-hour debate. Then I want to see Biden mentally make it on that stage, make it on that arena.
Yeah, once the advancing drugs that he's taken, once they wear off, he's going to start drooling all over himself. I mean, it's he can only last so long off of moderator and enhanced drugs allegedly. Just let them sit down and have at it. Yep. Yeah, it'll be annoying. They'll be talking over each other and everything, but they'll be forced to answer, questions. Like you still like that whole thing when she didn't even answer that Joe Biden said he don't support the Green New Deal. You worked on it with AOC. It says it on his website. How is that okay? Right. She never answered it. I would have been like, well, we're not going any further until you answer that. Tell me how the guy who has it on his website says he doesn't support your crappy Green New Deal. Yeah. And you're running with him. So, we got 3 hours on that alone. And if you're not going to answer it, we're just going to sit here and not go further.
I thought, and I thought Pence made a great point about the tax cut. That was classic. She had no comeback for that when he talked about, wait a minute, how can you say he's not going to increase taxes when he just came out and said that he was doing away with the tax cuts? That's a tax increase. by any math. So yeah,
And the fracking and not saying anything about rioting and looting until they did a poll and realized, oh my God, this whole defund the police and allowing them to loot and riot is not working. Now all of a sudden you're saying that. You absolutely said you'll do away with fracking. You absolutely said defund the police. And we're not moving any further until you at least admit that, because the people are not stupid. For months you said nothing. You actually were like, oh, they're just peaceful protesters and, our police are racist. And now you're going to sit here and go, well, no, we don't feel that way. Come on, you're a flip-flop. I would have had a pair of flip-flops on stage and then I would have handed them to them. Instead of wearing shoes, I would have took off my hold on a second. Here, you flip-flop so much, I brought you some vice presidential
hey, why not? Yeah, why not a little showmanship? I will say this.
Boom.
And PJR, I will say this. Yeah, Pence, he's very well prepared. It just takes him so long to get his points across that he doesn't get them all out in the quote time that he was interrupted or allowed on whatever. And Michelle talks about, I want to know if some billionaire can put a real news source on cable. Here's the thing that gives me some hope. It's the fact that grassroots channels like this spring up because right now they're able to. God knows what the future holds. So cable is dying. Internet is the thing. Jake, like you talk about, why even have these debates? You have so many independent news sources, big ones. I mean, that garner tons and tons of followers, reaching so many more people than TV ever does. So it'll come. It's just not going to come in time for this debate in the format that it needs to be. So yeah,
right. And the Charlottesville. How do you allow her to say that there was these people with tiki torches and white supremacists on one side and peaceful protesters? Did you watch the video, Camilla? Antifa, who you probably love, and you'll tell me that it's just an idea, showed up with bats and urine-filled balloons and helmets, and they were ready to go to battle. The people in Charlottesville, the Patriots, were in a park, surrounded by them while they're getting stuff thrown at them, and then were attacked because the police made them walk out into Antifa, into a mob. Are you saying they were peaceful protesters wearing shields and bats and fireworks and mace and everything else? Those are the peaceful protesters you're talking about? Yeah. How do you allow her to even say that? I covered Charlottesville live that whole day. I'd only seen them people, the Proud Boys or whoever was there, be attacked and then defend themselves. I never seen them start one single fight that whole day. They were attacked, and whatever the maniac was thinking running through the crowd is separate from that. Antifa was not being peaceful protesters.
No.
The cops sat back and, they were told to sit back, so I don't blame the cops. But they were told to stand down, and then they funneled them right out of the park into the bee's nest. And then what do you think's going to happen? Oh. You're calling them peaceful protesters? Come on, man. This is all a joke.
It is.
It's a complete joke.
It is. Yeah, can't wait for the memes. That's right, Truth Watch. There's going to be a lot of memes here. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's insane. And I don't know. I personally just wouldn't do them unless there's no moderator. Let's just go at it. No moderator. You and I. Mano a mano. Let's go. Why do you need a moderator? For what? You write down questions you want to ask me, and I'll write down questions I want to ask you, and I don't care if it takes 20 hours straight. I'm ready.
I think they ought to do it like they do it in the British Parliament. I love watching that. Those people, they know how to argue. I love it. Right? But anyway, yeah. So next debate, we'll be doing this again.
Absolutely.
Do you got anything else, Jake? I mean, I know we can go forever, but it's just...
No, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm sure they're furious, and we have a lot of intelligent people that see right through this.
I'm physically tired. I mean, it's that, like, it's when you have this kind of moderator, these kind of questions.
It's infuriating, man. You're just like, these ain't even questions.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking he needs to be focusing on that. Like, you remember when President Trump said, oh, I didn't realize I'm moderating two people, but I expected that. Do that every single time. So, excuse me. If I was Pence, I would go, oh, was that a question? Because that sounded like a CNN talking point. Do you actually have a question for me? Or are you just going to go with the CNN tomboy? Because I don't even know how to answer that. That was a hit piece question. America. I would say, America, are you watching this?
Yeah.
Does anybody think that was a question? do you feel like asking me a question, or do you want to get your liberal talking point out? I'm a little confused here. Well, that is the question. Well, no, that's not a question. So I don't even know how to answer it. I can defend myself about the attack you just did to me,
Right.
because that's all it is. They're
Right.
not even questioning their attacks. Like, oh, President Trump said 10 times he will not agree to a peaceful transition. That was a question? That was a question? Oh, I didn't know that was a question.
Yeah, and the loser and sucker thing, that's so blatant. I mean, you would think that at some point in time, even the moderator would have to call some, I don't know.
The person who wrote the article that said President Trump called them losers and suckers even said, oh, well, I have to admit that my sources were not good.
Right.
They were lying. But they continue to still bring that question up. I'd be like, and you even know that he called them bastards or whatever on camera. Like, laugh at that, you bastards. Like, don't bring that crap up.
Yeah, he said, I made two great decisions, one marrying my wife and the one putting whatever the guy's name was here. And no one clapped because no one liked him. He's on a military base. No one liked him. And he's like, clap, you dumb bastards. Oh, yeah. Really? You're just dull and boring.
Wow.
It's like, dude.
I mean, it's amazing.
And see, Pence should have brought that up. I don't know. There's so many things. Like I said, it's easy, and obviously they don't have unlimited time. But yeah, it's.
Well, I can tell you right now, there's nobody in the middle anymore. You're either Republican, you're either voting for Joe or you're voting for Trump. There's nobody in the middle anymore. But this isn't my biggest fear. Our biggest fear is election fraud that we're seeing already. People being arrested for dumping ballots. The base is nothing compared to what's coming with this nightmare that's going to happen with all these mail-in ballots.
And
has anybody tried to get mail lately? The mail is like taking 2.5 weeks to get a letter from Carolina to here, bro.
And why
just a letter?
And why didn't Pence, when that whole discussion came across, why didn't he hammer that? Why didn't he talk about the states right now, Jersey and Michigan, all these states that are actually, it's happening, where the vice president's name's not even on the ballot. Guys drive, Veritas had their thing where, all these, there's so much proof of it happening out there. I would have hammered that when they talked about a peaceful transition. I would have said, peaceful transition and a legitimate election, sure, we can have that. But a peaceful transition of power in an election fraught with fraud is third world country. And the United States is better than a third world country. And the president will not condone that, nor should the American people, nor should the judiciary, nor should anybody else. So I would have hammered that home with the fraud thing. So, yeah.
Right. And I've said this before, and I'm not saying people should do this, but if they're going to ballot harvest and they're going to cheat, do it better than them. Stop going, well, we're going to play fair, and if they cheat, they cheat. No, I'm not suggesting anybody do this, but do it better than them if they're going to do it.
That's right.
So whatever it is they're going to do it better than them.
Yep. I wouldn't put it past them to go drive through and get a mail truck, and they're going to drive through neighborhoods, and when they see that red flag up, rifle through that crap and pull out your ballots and toss them in the trash. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they're just going to go to – they know what districts are, for Trump and which ones are for Biden.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there are no districts for Biden. They're just not for Trump. I mean, his enthusiasm level is like going to a bingo game down at the local rec room. I mean, it's really just, like, did you see his speech on what is that? Gettysburg.
Oh, yeah.
Gettysburg speech. He shuffled onto stage. There was like 10 people, nobody under 80. And that's fine because I know we have a lot of elderly people. I'm just saying, like, he has no enthusiasm. They were all in a circle and he shuffled away. He forgot to put his mask on. And then he started running. And I mean,
right.
Are you kidding me?
I tell you,
the only thing he could pack is a Waffle House, which somebody said.
On that final question about that 8-year-old kid, which I thought was funny in the chat, get out and play, and all the other comments about it, what 8-year-old kids watching news and stuff. I would have really hammered home, I would tell that child that the reason so much vitriol is out there right now is because that is how important this election is. This is socialism versus capitalism, and there is no turning back after it's done, because once the laws are put into place, they don't get turned back. Look at Obamacare. Everybody thought, oh man, this will be easy to get out when Trump gets in office. It's not. And so that's how important this election is. And it's worth the fights. and it's worth the arguments, and it's worth the division. Because if you take a soft, passive middle ground, we will be socialist. They want it. It's coming, and only good men who take action can thwart it. So that may sound cheesy, but that's what I would have told that 8-year-old. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the 8-year-old didn't write the question. It was the parents. The parents always put these kids up to these things. Like whatever her name is, this social the climate change.
Oh,
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
Come on. You look at the history of her parents, they're all up in that crap.
Oh yeah.
So they just use them as puppets. That's all.
Yep.
So that's all I got. It's frustrating, but whatever, man. If it was a fair election, it doesn't matter. A debate, whatever. I cannot see people voting for Biden and socialism and rioting and all of that after what we just went through. If that's what America wants, whatever. My life will still go on. But I'll tell you what, I'll be right back to giving up on the pulse of America, like I did right before Trump got elected. Because remember, President Trump, like when he was sick, I was praying, please, God, get better. But President Trump didn't invent build the wall, back the military and the police and America first. He is just representing what we all been wanting and fighting for. We finally now had a president. So God forbid if President Trump ever passed away, we all still will always feel the things, his agenda.
That's right.
And we just now have to find a person to to fill those shoes. And it's hard because no regular person could run for president anymore. It takes a fortune.
Yep.
And that's why President Trump's so good. He used his money. You don't owe anybody anything. I know a lot of people joke around and like, Jake for president. I'm like, God, no. I was already president of my condo association, 260 units here, 650 people. No, thank you. If being president is anything like that, forget it. You can have it. I can tell you that. That was a nightmare.
Well, guys, I got to say, I hope you come join us the next debate because we'll be covering that too. And it was fun, and you guys made it tolerable, definitely, because chat was fun. It was fun being in chat with you. You guys are smart. You're insightful, and I love the quips and all the other stuff you guys got. So please join us next time because this was it's good. I mean, stay engaged, get people engaged, get people to vote. And get them out to the polls, encourage them, just tell them what's at stake, and tell them to watch replays of these debates, and God, just keep up with what's going on, so that they are educated voters. Don't need ignorant voters. Need educated voters.
We need educated voters.
That's right, educated voters.
Educated. All right, you guys. God bless. Maybe I'll see you guys later on tonight. Peace out.
you